Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Show. That I want to start with a question. Do you think that people who are happy are kind of just born that way? Right? Like it's just their nature. Either you're a happy person or you're not. Well, I will challenge that because as being a psychotherapist for the past 25 years, I can tell you that there are ways that you can intentionally build habits that curate more happiness in your life, which is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. I'm going to be sharing with you my top happiness curating tips and sharing the mindset that you would like to avoid if you want to have more joy in your life. So before we get started, if you happen to be new to this channel, please introduce yourself in the comments because we are a friendly bunch. And do not forget to hit the bell icon and to subscribe so that you don't miss every Tuesday and Thursday when I roll out new videos to help you create more happiness in your life. I also love to highlight your comments and your questions. So I would like to say thank you for this question from Birdie under the episode called Don't Get Sucked Into Conflict, 11 Tips to Handle Difficult People. Another great video, Terri. Thank you. With the help of your book and videos, I've really set and upheld my boundaries this year. It's been so hard to do as I'm a people pleaser and a highly sensitive person, but I finally realized their issues and misery are not mine to take on, fix, or change, etc. I no longer care if they are pissed off at me for setting a boundary. They'll get over it. You know what, Birdie? They will get over it. And in the meantime, you are curating more happiness by having better boundaries. That is a fact. So thank you so much for your comments and your questions. I really do appreciate you. All right, let's move into today's episode. Today we're talking about how can you curate more happiness in your life. So I'm basically calling them happiness habits. Because just like anything else that you want to happen in your life, you can intentionally create more happiness. So the first thing we're going to talk about is gratitude. Having gratitude for all the things in your life, the big and the small things that are right. I love this quote from Oprah where she says, opportunities, relationships, even money flowed my way when I learned to be grateful no matter what happened in my life. Right? Grateful for the experiences, even in the crappy experiences. And again, we're not talking about bypassing. We're not talking about saying everything happens for a reason when something awful happens. It's being able to be grateful for what's right, even when there are things that are wrong. People who curate happiness naturally, they understand that what you focus your attention on grows. So if you're endlessly watching depressing, traumatizing news, if you're endlessly sharing awful stories of terrible things that are happening to people or watching the news 24/7, that also then gets amplified in your experience. So it doesn't mean that you should be uninformed. It means that you should limit the amount of horrible news that you're taking in and focus your attention as much as possible on what's right in your life, being grateful for all of the big and small things. Practicing gratitude, right? Gratitude, just like happiness, is a muscle that you can make stronger the more that you actually engage in it. So it's looking, instead of for what is lacking, it's looking for what is there. It's getting joy in the small things. Gratitude, I have to say, I always thought this in my own life. It was my superpower, even as a teenager, even as a kid. The thing that made me the most happy, in a way, was my ability to feel gratitude for all of my blessings, big and small. That's incredibly soothing, even when the shit is hitting the fan. Being able to find something small to be grateful for is incredibly helpful. All right, number 2 on our list, laugh. Recently, I just decided that I'm not listening to news and stuff like that while I'm driving. And I started listening to Netflix is a Joke on Sirius Radio and other comedy stations. And I'm laughing by myself, driving in the car. And it feels so good. And again, it's not just the moment that you're laughing. That has a ripple effect because when we're laughing, we are releasing all of these feel-good hormones in our bodies. And that has a lingering effect the same way when we're listening to stressful news and we're excreting cortisol and adrenaline and things that are the stress hormones. That has a lingering effect as well. So if you don't have any reasons, right, just in your daily life to laugh, curate them by listening to things that you think are funny, by watching comedies, by staying away from things that engender feelings in you that are incredibly stressful. So laughing, that's number 2. Number 3, just down. Slow the heck down. Rushing around never made anybody happier in life. Slowing down. What do they say? Take the time to smell the flowers or whatever. But it's not just that. It's back to what happens to our physiology when we are rushing around like maniacs all the time. Do you think that's good for your physical body? Of course not. Now, you may have the opposite problem that I used to have. I had a very dysfunctional relationship to time for a long time, in that I was that person who had to be like stupid early. You know those people? They're just as annoying as the people who are chronically late. Trust me, because I was one of them. And what would happen is I'd be just as stressed getting somewhere. I was always rushing, even though I would always be 15 to 20 minutes early to whatever I was going to. I mean, listen, logically, obviously, hindsight's 2020. That makes literally no sense at all. I was wired. I was constantly on edge in my 20s for sure, and probably even into my early 30s, where it was a fear-driven response. But then it just became a habituated response. I wasn't even thinking. I was just always rushing. And really, this all came to a head in my early relationship with my husband because he was someone who would be late and I is someone who need to be early. And now you can imagine, and I wonder if any of you have this conflict with anyone in your life. It's about more than being late or being early. It's about being dominated by someone else. It's about wanting to dominate someone else. And I mean, Vic and I, through therapeutic intervention and our own conversations, really found a place in the middle where we both committed to looking at our own dysfunctional relationship to time. So instead of blaming the other person like, well, you're making me late and you're wrong, or him being like, you need to be ridiculously early and that's stupid, which he wouldn't say, but I'm sure that's what he was thinking. Instead of that, we were like, okay, why don't we clean up what's on our own side of the street? And then let's see where we can meet in the middle. And we were able to meet in the middle and leave early enough so I didn't have a panic attack, but not so early that we'd be sitting somewhere for 40 minutes before the thing started. Like, we found our way to it. And what ended up happening is a lot of times with the early-late dynamic, especially in couples, you're really playing out something else. It's a passive-aggressive way of expressing anger. If someone is making you late and they know you're going to be pissed off about them holding you up, it's almost like you get into these polarized positions around time, and it's much safer to yell about, I can't believe you're making me late, than perhaps talking about something that might be more threatening. So in my relationship with Vic, we also realized that he had difficulty telling me if he was upset with me about something or angry about something because it felt threatening to him, because he was a widower with 3 acting out teenage kids, and he was so happy to have a love relationship that was supportive of that, his anger was too threatening to him. Of course, now that was 25 years ago, and now his anger is just fine with him. But so we can talk about whatever comes up now in the relationship all these years later and lots of therapy later. But it was almost a way, him making me late and knowing I would explode, there was like a kind of satisfaction in, he didn't have to experience his anger because I was expressing my anger and frustration and his in that dynamic. And trust me, it took a therapist to explain that to me many times for me to get what passive-aggressive anger really actually is. I think I should do an entire episode just on that because it's so fascinating and it's so joyful and a much happier life when you're not fighting about stupid shit like time. Okay. The next thing, notice the little things. And this is connected to slowing down. When you make it your mission to slow down enough to look around, to be grateful for the nature, to be grateful for someone who's dressed beautifully, or a beautiful sky, or a gorgeous sunset. Those are the things I'm talking about, the small things. Being grateful and happy for like the perfect cup of coffee or tea in the morning. Those are the small gratitudes that really are cumulative, and they accumulate to create a happier life for you. Okay, the next thing is accepting the hard experiences in life. So again, curating happiness habits is not about being in denial of what's hard. It's allowing yourself to have the full range of emotions, because hard things are hard, and we're allowed to be bummed out, to be pissed off, to be aggravated, to be sad, to feel sorrow about things. But when you have a decent sense of self, and when you lean towards curating more happiness, you also know it's important to honor those rough times, but those rough times are not going to last forever. A happiness building habit is allowing yourself to fully experience the full range of emotions, right? It's having something bad happen, but not allowing that bad thing to make you bitter. Because so much of the time, bad things have happened many years ago. I met a woman at a wedding once, and I was introducing myself. Oh, hi, how do you know the bride? Whatever. We were sitting at the same table, and she was like, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so. I've been divorced for 18 years. I mean, it wasn't my choice, but those things happen. Like, it was like the second thing out of her mouth. And then I heard her later talking to someone else and sort of saying the same thing. And it wasn't just that something bad happened to her in her life. It's that her identification with it was so deep and tight. She was so identified by being wronged, because she went on to tell me the whole thing about why they got a divorce, and he had an affair, and there was a whole thing. And I just wanted to be like, dude, get into therapy. Like, you can work through that. I mean, I didn't say that, and I didn't know her well enough, but what a drag to have something that happened 18 years ago be the second thing you tell someone after your name when you meet them, a total stranger, right? So we don't want that. Bad experiences are going to happen to good people, and they do all the time. It feels like they don't happen to bad people enough, but okay, fine. But we don't want them to make us bitter. The next mindset is a mindset of evolution. This is a happiness habit that actually will make a huge difference in the way you go through the world, right? Because there's two mindsets that you can be in: a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And in a fixed mindset, you believe that your qualities, right, are set in stone, like they can't change. With a growth mindset, you believe that you're capable of change and expansion, and that you can improve with effort. Let's say a fixed mindset is, I haven't met the love of my life. A growth mindset is, I haven't met the love of my life yet, right? Just adding that word creates this possibility. And it's a really, really important part of going through life with hope, because it's real hope when you know that things can change, that you can change, that your feelings are going to change. And in fact, my mentor, David G., says, the only thing we can count on is that everything is going to change. Because this is life. This is the life cycle, right? We don't stay the same. It's aging, it's getting married, it's having children, it's empty nesting, it's becoming grandparents, it's aging, and then it is transitioning into whatever you believe is next. Right? Life is change. That's it. And so with a growth mindset and a mindset of evolution, you know that is going to change, which makes the gratitude habit so incredibly important. It requires you to be here now. Enjoy this moment, this sunset, this makeout session, this whatever it is. Because again, this won't last forever, right? The good, the bad, all of them at some point will end, because this is the nature of life. So that's incredibly important. And the last thing I want to say about this is you have to be willing to do the work. If you believe that, like, well, I was just born a pessimistic person, that may be true, which means you have that much more to come back from. But your feelings, your life, your relationships, your happiness is your responsibility. And so it's worth it to put in the effort to do the things that I talked about in this episode, if any of them inspired you, to actually harness, hone, curate more happiness in your one and only, one of a kind, only you're gonna live it life. It is up to you, right? We are the ones we've been waiting for. So there isn't a happiness fairy who's gonna just give it to us. We have to find it. And that is an inside job, but you absolutely can do it. And your future happiness and your satisfaction in life is so incredibly worth it. So I created a little guide for you. Just go to terricole.com/guide. I would love to know how this episode struck you. Do you think what I'm saying is accurate? That you can actually curate more happiness in your life by getting into happiness habits, and let me know which ones you're gonna try. You guys know where I hang out most on Instagram, so let me know if you like this episode, and please, if you did, share it with the people in your life, because wow, we could all use a little bit more happiness. So I hope you guys have an amazing week curating, harnessing, looking for happiness. And as always, take care of you.